In Egypt's sandy silence, all alone, stands a gigantic leg, which far off throws the only shadow that the desert knows. I am great Osmanius, saith the stone, the king of kings. This mighty city shows the wonder of my hand. The city's gone, naught but the leg remaining to disclose the site of this forgotten Babylon. What powerful but unrecorded race once dwelt in that annihilated place? The passage I just butchered was written in the 1800s. Oddly enough, it was written together by two people, Percy Shelley and Horace Smith, who went to document it in altered forms separately. The version I just read you were excerpts from the Horace Smith version. What powerful but unrecorded race once dwelt in that annihilated place? What do we leave behind as man when we are gone? Let me forewarn you, if you're still listening for whatever reason. Fear-mongering, no, but a thought experiment of great proportions in a vacuum of chaos and loss and the death of humanity shall soon follow. So, if I hurt you the first time, it's probably not the right time to be listening. For those of you who don't know why I have to make that comment, go back and listen to the mailbag episode and it'll shed a little light into it. Here we are, 2020. We lived through 2012, and we lived through H1N1, and we lived through the swine flu, and we lived through the Spanish flu, which that is racist. We lived through countless end times. We've lived through hurricanes and tornadoes and wild forest fires, and I know everyone is stuck on the fact that everything's much worse than it is, and it has to be the end of times, despite all of the factual, statistical data that points that we're in the best place we've ever been in as a race, minus the rapid warming of the earth, which that down the road could kill us. But despite all those things, let's say, if we will, that life ends now. It's a collection of things, a hybrid of COVID-19 mixed with a severe flu season, mixed with a bad batch of medicine that gets out, mixed with rioting and looting and fear, because fear is man's greatest enemy, mixed with fanaticism, which again is man's greatest enemy. When man believes that he is chosen, when man believes that he is ordained, when man believes that he is special, he has more value than other men because his God saith so, then that is a mixture for a powder keg, and I fear that if this spreads far enough overseas, you'll see that. You'll see the chosen of all the religions stand up and go, my God saith so, I am the greatest. And only one, unfortunately, can be correct. I guess, unless they're sharing duties, I don't know. But let's say all these things result in the end of man, the fall of mankind. This great, mighty race of beings, this prolific creators and architects authors and musicians and all that they have laid before you, the cities that they have built, all the grand things that they have conquered, taken over, claimed as their own, all of the wilds that they have built on top of, all these things are left to stand empty. If the world does end, what do we leave in our path? What I'm under the belief, and this is to be completely honest with you, that man has risen many times, and that nature, life, coincidence, bad luck, something knocks us back down the ladder and we have to raise again. And I think the more times we raise, the quicker our ability to raise up those rungs of the ladder become. I think that is why if you look at the progress we've made in 20 years, the progress we've made in 100 years, the progress we've made in 500 years compared to the rest of known civilization, if we're going by the agreed upon time, let's say 10,000 years. If we're going to go by that, what we've done in 500 of those 10,000 years is phenomenal. What we've done in 100 of those 10,000 years is unimaginable. We could not imagine to any degree progressing and advancing at the rate that we have in the last 100 years over the next 100 years. We don't have the processing ability to understand where we're at in 100 years of the same type of progression. It's that advanced, it's that far, it's that amazing, it's that breathtaking. We are a marvel. We are unreal. The perfect machine with imperfect programming. But if it all falls apart, if we leave the world empty today, what stands as the marker, as the headstone for humanity? What says we were here and this is what we were? Science shows us our cities will crumble, overtaken by nature, the most powerful force in the world. Skyscrapers fall down, grass and weeds overtaking the black top and the concrete. Dams will crack and break and rivers will return to flow where they once flowed before. The cities we built will rot and fall away, just like the ancient cities of Rome, just like the cities that possibly we don't know about. Just like the cities that we can find literary references to, but no physical trace of. Much like possibly El Dorado. You know, they're currently using something called LIDAR. It's a light refractive radar that they're using to look below the floor and the canopy of the jungle in the Amazon and into South America and into those regions. And they're finding that nature's just reclaimed that place. That place actually, based on the biology of that place, based on, I guess, the horticulture of that place, we can see that most of the plants and things surviving in that area are basically crops, things that were brought in and used to sustain life and to sustain civilizations, large civilizations, humongous civilizations that we had no idea existed, that LIDAR is starting to shed some light on. You know, we really don't know what the sands of Egypt have covered. We can't, in all honesty, if we're being fair, date the pyramids or the Sphinx. If anything, albeit unpopular, the Sphinx is dating with the water erosion and things of that nature that is being shown on it is much older than anyone in present day academia wants to admit. So we've lost a record. We've lost records in time. We've lost the Library of Alexandria. We've lost all these things. We cannot definitively know all there is to know about Mesopotamia. We cannot definitively know all there is to know about man before 10,000 years ago. And that's why we like to put that time frame on civilization at 10,000 years. Because that's all we can find what we consider adequate evidence for. Is it because evidence does not exist, or is it because evidence is lost? If we were gone today, I don't know if any of you have ever watched the Life After People or Earth After People or any of those types of programs. In 10,000 years, to someone who has no knowledge of who and what we are, of what we've done and what we've built and what we've created, would have no way of knowing that we were ever here. The scars we cause on earth will heal. The obstructions we place will rot and crumble, and the ones that don't will be absorbed into nature, into its surroundings. If we were walking in a stream 10,000 years ago, and we came upon 1,000 leaves floating in the stream, and there were leaves everywhere. Now, we're not thinking of leaves as we know leaves. We're thinking of them as something we've never seen before. There's leaves in all the waterways. There's leaves in all these places. But we see the source of the leaves, so we know what causes them. But let's take gold, for instance. Gold, we look and we can't find it. It's more it's more labor intensive to get to. It's harder to find, so we place a value on it. What if we had found something from a lost civilization that was non-biodegradable that we could not find the source of, but it was abundant enough to notice, but not abundant enough to we thought it could be replenished? Would we put a value on that? Of course. But would we know that it was man-made if we had no idea that there had been man? No, we wouldn't. So we do not have the ability to build things, to construct things. Temples, in honor of our opulence and our greed, will not stand the test of time. They will fall, they will crumble. So if the world ends today, and man starts again, and inevitably we forget, because we've forgotten history. We've forgotten history from 40 years ago. We continually repeat it. He who owns the present owns the past, and he who owns the past owns the future. Or, be it he who controls the present controls the past, and he controls the past controls the future. You can go the Rage Against the Machine route, you can go your own route, you can make the lyric what you wish, but it is a fact. Those of us now who are in power, who have the ball in their court, so to speak, for this time, those people, they're writing history. They say winners write history. For the most part, they do. Look at what do we know about the enemies of Rome? Well, we know what the Roman scholars wrote about them. You take someone like Xerxes, what do we really know about Xerxes? Well, what we really know about Xerxes is what people who were not on the side of Xerxes wrote. Because in the end, when it was all said and done, Xerxes was not the winner. Maybe that was the reason for sacking all these libraries in ancient times and burning them and doing away with the ancient wisdom and knowledge that existed, because the only thing that comes from knowledge is often enlightenment, and nobody wants to rule over enlightened people. But those libraries would not have stood the test of time without human interaction, even if they hadn't been. Even our stone, written in stone, our tablets, how much longer could they survive? But even if they survived millennia, who will be there to read them? If humanity falls now, the world ends now, and let's say we get down to a near extinction situation. We've been there before. We've been to near extinction situations before. The planet has went through that. The fossil file and archaeological evidence, we know we've been near extinction. The population of the earth has been down extremely low. What if that's all that happens this time, that we get a near extinction event? We get down to a population that is minuscule. Let's say 1 million people seems like so many. Let's say 1 million people spread evenly throughout what is currently occupied space in the world. That's nothingness. That's nothingness. But even with that, of course, we still have our books, we still have our knowledge, we still have all these things, right? How long will that last? Because let me assure you, the books are the first things to go, because the first thing that would be involved with those people is survival. They have to revert to something more primal, to something that can survive outside of this electricity-filled, air-conditioned, fake shell of existence that we call survival. Even if the Matrix is not real, even if we're fully awake, we're very much in a simulation. If you take us down to that near extinction event and put us back down to that low population, to where there is no food delivery, there is no power, there is no internet, there's no soft hum of electric light and energy. Take us to that point, simulation's over. You've been unplugged. And what happens when you're unplugged? Survival. We revert to a primal state, a state more suited and more adapted for survival. And tribalism becomes even more so than it is now. You think the disgusting expression of Republicans and Democrats and parties and religions and all these things that people used to separate themselves and consider themselves better than others. If you think for a moment that those things are anything but tribalism, it's just denial on your part. Tribalism will change in a situation such as that. It becomes more intimate, more personal. Now, whoever the leader is, history has shown us, will often become drunk with power. And in becoming drunk with power, he will often have delusions of self-grandeur. And delusions of self-grandeur generally results in the manipulation of history. Well, the world ended because of this, the true reason. But within 50 years, the world ended because the leader saith so. And the world was destroyed and the leader saved us. And no matter how many books you have, no matter how much of a semblance of the old life starts out with this new surviving members of our world, in 50 years it's gone. In 100 years it's not even a memory. In 1,000 it's nothing. Because he who controls the present controls the past. And he who controls the past controls the future. Everything would change. Everything would be shaped and molded by those existing in that moment. And with that few of people, nobody's cutting grass. Nobody's digging weeds. Nobody's spraying for insects and trapping mice. No one's traveling the roads and walking the sidewalks. Those people could occupy such a small space in our world that nature would easily take over. And those people would exist in structures 100 years, 200 years down the road that, albeit man-made, have been reclaimed by nature and at that point are just considered a naturally occurring phenomenon. A building's not a building. It's part of the earth. It's why it has vines and leaves and earth in it. See, that few of people can't stop the advancement of the earth. The earth is alive and moving just like we are. We're feeding off the earth. We're the cancer. We're feeding off the earth. If this extinction event comes through the chemotherapy of the cosmos and takes out a good chunk of the cancer, well, the smaller portions of cancer, maybe the earth could fight off. It could definitely fight off the damage that we've done. And if you view it that way, then it would definitely overtake these things. Now, we have great literature, great record keeping. Now, if we leave that in digital form, what value would it have after an apocalyptic event when all known civilization was gone? It would have no value. And if an advanced civilization came here 1,000,000 years from now and found a thumb drive, what's the possibilities that they could even use it? Or if they were 1,000,000 years advanced, would it even mean anything? Could they dumb themselves down enough to access it? Could humans 1,000 years from now finding a thumb drive somehow perfectly preserved, could they teach themselves enough to use it after something like a population-threatening apocalypse? Your digital footprint means nothing when the world is gone. It will not cast a shadow over the land. It will not be an altar to bow to. It will not be a record of greatness and pride. It will bring you nothing. It will have no value. So then you must fall to the written word. And in such a situation where the population is reduced so, and survival is so important over those first few years, those first few decades, those first few 100 years, what kind of value will be put on saving the written word? But even if you do, which language are you going to save? We're going to start over again? Relearn languages that we never knew? An English-speaking person is going to relearn Mandarin or learn Mandarin after never seeing it, or vice versa? Who knows where written language will go? Written language has the best ability to hang on through something like that. Our ability to speak, as long as our groups are large enough, our ability to speak. But take, for instance, people in eastern Kentucky compared to people in the Midwest, compared to people in California, compared to people in Alaska. Separation and distance, well, they cause uniqueness. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, especially not as overpopulated as the world is. But isolation, like in the mountains, causes for a change in dialect and accent. How much will the way we express ourselves, the way we speak, the way we understand the words we use, how much will they change? And can they change to the point that written information means nothing to us? And in 1,000 or 2,000 years after such an event, will those written words have been taken care of in a manner in which that paper could survive? Stone will survive. A large enough population of people speaking one particular dialect who purposely keep and cherish stone tablets or things written in stone, monuments, things of that nature, take care of them, probably praise them, probably worship them. If they do that, then that language and that written word has the ability to remain. But will they not do what all humans do? Will they not pervert it? Will they not take what's written and make it their own? Make it mean to them what they need it to mean? Make it feed the fears that they need fed in order to keep control. Make it offer the promises they need to keep faith. Make it say what they need it to say in order to maintain the civilization that they've created. We've done that. We've done that with ancient texts. We've done it with a lot of things. If the world ends tomorrow, what will be our great legacy? What will we leave? What will be the monument that shines bright as human existence here on earth? More than likely, hazardous waste, pollution. Those things will outlast most other creations. The Eiffel Tower will rust and rot and drop before hazardous waste went through its half-life. Nuclear weapons will stay in silos buried below ground, waiting for the next race of fear-mongers and haters to dig them up and find a way to blow them up on people. Or maybe amidst all this, Russia finds a weakness in us and decides to just drop one and we instantly retaliate. Mutually assured destruction. But some survive. Altered chemically, altered physiologically, with a physical variance or deformity or mutation. Our art will not stand the test of time. It's beautiful and it's perfect and it's wonderful, and humans have the ability to make things that no other creature on this earth can make. But it is so temporary and it is so futile to even think that it could last. If the world ends tomorrow, what will be the shining example, the thing that lasts throughout eternity to show that man was here and they were great? They were prideful and boastful, and they were the most wonderful thing to ever walk the face of the earth. In all honesty, it's nothing. There's nothing. Nothing to do all those things. Life is temporary. This moment is temporary. Who we are is temporary. What we have created is temporary. All those things are temporary. But life itself, as each person experiences it, is very special and very valuable, especially to that person. So I would say, be gone with the fearmongers. Pay them absolutely no mind. Put no value in the words they speak. Worry not about the end, because that's why they call it the end. It is the end. Even at the chance that somebody hits reset and we start again, our chapter is closed. You'll never enjoy a book if you're constantly reading ahead. You have to read the sentence before you. You have to read the moment you're in. You have to experience it in the moment. Life deserves the same respect. It deserves the same exact thing. There will be no monument to mankind. There will be no proof, no evidence, no knowledge that we were here when it's time for us to be gone. So why worry about building monuments and leaving marks? Not for the entirety of humanity, but for your life. For the people you impact, for the people you love, for the people that you're involved with. Leave those marks for them. Leave those remnants for them to remember you by. When they're gone, they will be forgotten, and you will be forgotten. We have people that we've recorded throughout history, people we've documented, whose lives we've deemed important enough to impact the world and to be reminisced and spoken of, and we know nothing about those people, really. We know what the books say, but you know what they say about the books and the history. He who controls the present controls the past, and he who controls the past controls the future. There's no value in trying to think of what we'll leave for those who come after us. The value is in the here and now. The world's not ending. It's not the end times. It's not the end of the world as we know it. Not on that grand scale. Every day is the end of the world as you know it. Because every day the world changes. It grows, it shrinks, it expands, it retracts. It does something socially, historically, economically, even physically. Temperatures rise, waters fall. The ebbs and flows of existence, they're undebatable. They will come regardless. So put less value in fear and more value in existing. Now, Jennifer, I'm not going to use your last name. People are very litigious these days. But is that any better? That's 2 times you've earned my attention, or not earned it, but received it. Is that any better? Is that any different for you? Is there a lack of fear-mongering in that? Does that bring you any joy? It does me. I like thought experiments. I like the ideal of sitting down and thinking of various situations, various options, various outcomes, to sit down and think about life in all aspects of it, to me, brings a greater value to life. To fear and to fearmonger, no. That, excuse me, that very much takes away from the value of life. I'll agree with you on that. But to constantly be unsatisfied, to constantly judge and quarrel and dislike and hate and comment and react in a manner unbecoming of any human, well, is that really existence? Do you really have any joy in your life if that's all you're restricted to? The end is not near. This cancer will probably stay around until it eats the host and we've moved on to another. 2,000 years from now, someone will be doing the same thing I'm doing in a different method, in a different way, in a different platform, over a different outbreak on a different planet. But how the world is surely ending. The sky is surely falling. The wolves are surely coming. Even though you can't find the pieces of the sky, you've not actually seen the wolf. You just feel it. You just know it. It's obvious to you that all is lost. And we're done for. Well, that isn't obvious to me. Actually, it's quite to the contrary. I believe we've got a lot left in us. Now, I said I'm going to leave these with quotes. I have a lot of quotes written down in a book. I just write quotes constantly in a book. A good chunk of those, like anything else, will come in patterns, what I'm reading at the time, and there's a large section of Nietzsche quotes. If you've never read Ecce Homo by Nietzsche, it's good insight into who and how Nietzsche thought, who he was and how he thought. And, you don't have to agree with someone to glean wisdom from something they say or something they've done. You just have to put the time in trying to interpret those things and seeing if it brings any great value for you. So today, I'm going to leave you with a Nietzsche quote. The happiness of my existence, its uniqueness perhaps, lies in its inevitable end. None of us are getting out of this alive.